I don't think it's hyperbole to say it's the biggest win of the Hugh Freeze era at Auburn. I don't think that's hyperbole at all. What do we think about that? How different does it feel today? How good do you feel starting this week, starting Iron Bowl week with a pretty massive dose of confidence, courtesy of Auburn's win over Texas A&M? He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. It's a brand new Village Vice brought to you by mybookie.ag. Zach, what they are doing at MyBookie right now is remarkable. It's different. If you haven't gone to MyBookie yet, now is the time to go.
Yeah, they've even got like action with, of course, the sportsbook stuff, but they've got like the casino where you can just kind of play like it's like you're visiting the casino from your home. It's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff around the holidays. Why not? Why not? So very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Thought you were about to say something.
No, I am. So they're running a promotion specific to our audience, right? A 300% deposit bonus for the casino and 50 free spins when you use that promo code next round.
Yeah, what are we even doing? Head over there, check them out for sure. Yeah, the line right now for Auburn and Alabama, 11.5. That seems high to me. We'll jump into that later. But yeah, when you talk about the biggest win of the Hugh Freeze era, I mean, it's exactly what this is. And we've seen them be close so many times. I'm not talking about just this year. I mean, last year with the Iron Bowl, Georgia, Ole Miss. I think the final score is a little closer than like the actual flow of that game. But they've been so close to having that signature marquee win where you can point to. And he finally got it. And he got it in dramatic fashion. And this team, you know, the situation they were in as far as their backs against the wall and it being senior night. And I mean, there were so many different things that made this win so special, so dynamic, so monumental. I mean, there's no question that if you look at what Auburn does a few years from now, let's say they get it done and they ascend and, you know, they're competing for the SEC, which is kind of what we all think that they can do in a few years. We're all going to point back to what happened on Saturday and say, that was it.
Yeah.
That's when it started to turn.
Yeah. The game had everything. It's like when you're playing Yahtzee, you know, and you go, all right, do I use that as my full house or do I do 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, whatever? The game had a little bit of everything. It had the fast start offensively. It had a ground and pound kind of drive. It had a quick strike drive. It had targeting Cam Coleman and Jarquez Hunter and Keandre Lambert-Smith. It had athletic catches from KLS.
Yep.
You had an interception by the defense. Like the start of the game was just about everything. Would have filled up your entire Yahtzee sheet right there. But then A&M bounces back. And they have a quick strike. And they tie the game. And now it's you're down the roller coaster hill. Here we go again. No, Auburn comes right back down the field and they score to take the lead again. And then A&M punches back. And then they retake the lead. And here we go again. And on 4th and 2, Payton scrambles for 23 yards. And eventually, the guy who wasn't kicking, wasn't on your team last year, makes a field goal and ties the game, and you go to overtime. And you find a way to win it in overtime. I mean, Zach, again, I could go on and on here. The game had everything. You want. You check every single box in this game. So now you're 1 win away from bowl eligibility. You have confidence that comes from a repeated pattern. Okay. If Ian Vachon gets into the Iron Bowl and has to kick a clutch field goal, it won't be the first time this year he's asked to do that.
That's true. Yeah. Great point.
If you have to come from behind and score in a 2-minute drive at the end of a half or into the game, it won't be the first time that you will have done it successfully.
Sure.
All these things build confidence. Cam Coleman, KLS, 100 yards in back-to-back games. I mean, you're talking about a team that sort of looks like, and I'm trying so hard not to use hyperbole, but finally you're looking like a team that's kind of found who it is and who it should be offensively.
Yeah, we've seen glimpses of what this team could be. They just haven't been able to put a full game together. They didn't put a full game together this past weekend either, but they still found a way to win and to close, and they showed up when it mattered most. Specifically that last drive that, you know, they kicked the field goal to force overtime. But yeah, I mean, you're going into a situation now where if you win against Alabama, I mean, this team is discussed in Auburn lore for a long time. Sure, they're 6-6, but the way they finished, which would be ironic because they've been trying to figure out how to finish for 2 years, and then they do it. They'll be known as the team that finished the season strong, regardless of what happens in the bowl game. I think this team will be discussed for a long time. But yeah, there were just so many key guys that stepped up at different moments of the game. I mean, Jarquez Hunter was a constant throughout. Cam Coleman's first half was electric. Keandre Lambert-Smith, the 2-point conversion tries don't show up in the stat sheet, but that catch to give Auburn the go ahead and then the eventual game winner was, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, an insane catch. One of many that KLS has had this year, but just with everything that was on the line, is everything you wanted. It's everything you wanted. And then defensive guys like, Jaron Thompson's pick or, Kieran Crawford.
Yes. Kieran had especially in the first half, he was outstanding. Everywhere. Yeah.
He was everywhere. DeMarcus Riddick. I mean, it's just this nice mix of seniors as well as freshmen, as well as, guys who are expected to be on the roster next year. I mean, there was just everybody stepped up in different moments. Rivaldo had a sneaky good game. Payton Thorne outside of the interception. And I mean, the way he responded to that, like he had one of his best games as an Auburn Tiger. It's just the list goes on and on and on. And when you think about what was at stake, from a recruiting standpoint, I mean, obviously that's going to have a big impact as early signing day gets closer and closer. But as far as just keeping the momentum going, it's huge, especially when you go to Tuscaloosa this week, where it seems like things are trending in the opposite direction after them getting whooped by Oklahoma. So it's a win. We all knew a win would go a long way, but that level of win, that magnitude of a win, I mean, it almost feels like it's changed everything.
Well, it does, and it's I think a big part of that, Zach, is because of everything that they had to overcome that did sink this team in games earlier this year. Okay, missed field goal didn't sink them in this game; they overcame it. Penalties, really poorly timed penalties on both sides. Okay, that
or lack thereof penalties.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
No calls. Yeah.
Would have sank this team earlier in the year. Did in a few games this year.
Right.
They overcame that. The other team snatching momentum and grabbing when you've led the whole game and the other team takes their first lead in the fourth quarter. Sank this team in games earlier this year. Didn't sink them Saturday. I mean, the way they did it, a 2-point win at home at night over a top 15 team. We have seen that before at Auburn. Haven't seen it in a while, but we've seen it before. It's not brand new, but the way this team did it in this game, I think it fortifies a lot as they go into the finale.
And I think I've said, the following description about this team on this show, on several shows, that this team lacks any sort of composure. Well, after Saturday, it's like, well, they showed a ton of composure Saturday.
Sure did. How about running it? How about handing it off with under 90 seconds to go in your 2-minute offense to Jarquez? Just hand it to him up the middle. Back-to-back plays.
And everybody watching was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. No timeouts. No timeouts. No panic.
Yeah. Give it to Jarquez.
Yeah.
Give it to Jarquez. 32 touches.
Yeah.
32 touches for Jarquez Hunter.
How about that?
It's amazing.
28 carries. 24 of them were zone scheme runs, by the way. And you can see cutback lanes and big gaps up the middle. And
give them that load.
Yeah.
One more time.
Don't you think they will? Don't you think and Hugh Freeze said earlier in the week, we love zone better than gap. We love zone better. And then came out and did it. I love seeing, knowing the other team is out to stop the run and going, we're not letting the defense dictate 100% of what happens offensively.
That's got to be the game plan in the Iron Bowl. It has to be, especially with what Oklahoma just did to Alabama.
Yeah, with a freshman who had 15 carries.
Run it. Yep.
Because
if you get a few drives like that, I mean, mentally at home, it's like, are we about to be like the first Alabama team in forever to be 4 losses? Like, oddly enough, the pressure's on Bama now.
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yeah. And I don't know how much of that you want to get into today, but just listen. Just listen to what's happening around you.
The meltdown is insane.
Yeah.
And I think regardless of the outcome of the Iron Bowl, I think it's about to get worse. So
and that's kind of what I thought. If Auburn won this game, I didn't think there was any chance they were going to lose in Norman. But I just thought if Auburn won the game, it was going to put a little more pressure on Alabama. Now that they've lost and now they're not playing for an SEC championship, there's an outside shot at the playoffs still, I guess. But what's you're way more terrified of losing than you are hopeful of winning, I think, if you're Alabama.
Yeah, and I want to say something, get your thoughts specifically on a take I had elsewhere in just a moment, right here on Village Vice. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Roback. Roback.com is where you need to go to get all of your last-minute Christmas gifts, or it doesn't even have to be last minute. Just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and check off the boxes. We went out of town this weekend. I came back. I had all these packages at my door because I'm an early shopper. I get it done. I put it in a closet, and then a few days out from Christmas, I ask, people to wrap it for me. I cannot wrap gifts.
I admire you for doing that.
Well, Roback.com makes it easy.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's for the men or the women in your life. Roback.com has you covered. I'm wearing one of their hoodies. Brad, you wear this hoodie a lot as well. Mm-hmm. It's the best hoodie that we own.
It is
collectively.
Look, it's a going out hoodie. It's also a lounging around the house hoodie. I wore my Roback quarter zip to church yesterday, and my friend's daughter said, "Dad, is Roback expensive?" And he, right on cue, said, "I guess it could be, but it's really good stuff, and it's not all that expensive if you use the promo code from Village Vice."
Yeah, Vice20 gets you 20% off your order. Go check it out, Roback.com. Use promo code Vice20 for 20% off your order. So obviously, if Auburn wins the Iron Bowl, it's huge. It means a lot for the Tigers, right? I don't think it impacts recruiting as much as some fans are making it out to be, like, just because I don't know like who specifically it helps you land, because Auburn's class is pretty much done, and there's 2 or 3 guys, and like I don't know if that's really what they're waiting on. It's not going to hurt, right?
Right.
But we all agree it'll help Auburn some percentage. But the amount that it hurts Alabama, that percentage is far more.
Yeah, I think the biggest area where it helps Auburn is probably NIL contributions. If you go
for the
transfer portal or future foundation, that kind of thing, because you are still going to have to go.
It seems
there,
that war chest is really solid. But
it is, no question. But like we've seen, Michigan and Ohio State ain't going to take a back seat, and it's going to get even more nuts up until there are regulations. So with that said,
and I don't know how you can regulate it, but for sure.
With that said, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it is far. And that's why I said before, I think the Alabama fear of losing far, far, far exceeds their hope of winning.
Kalen DeBoer can say he loves pressure all day long, but he's never felt this before.
No.
Like, there's no way he's comfortable.
Not in a playoff game. Nope. This is different than a playoff game.
I mean, if they lose, I'm not saying that they will fire him, but they will want him gone if he loses on Saturday.
Well, they'll want a bunch of their players gone for sure. Like guys who are on the team and could come.
I think you unplugged, but that's okay. But I agree with you. And I think in this transfer portal era, I don't know if it's going to be as like much of a destination to go to Tuscaloosa as it used to be. And we don't know exactly what that looks like yet. But I think regardless of the outcome, the next few weeks are going to be super interesting for Auburn and Alabama, no question. Yeah. But I don't know.
It's fascinating. It's I think it's interesting just to think about how different it feels today than what it felt like, say, 3 days ago. Talking about the Iron Bowl. When everybody thought, or when Auburn was not the favorite to beat Texas A&M. You have guys like Tony Barnhart tweeting stuff like,
Texas A&M's only a 2.5-point favorite to beat Auburn? Really? Yeah, really. Didn't work out that way. Turns out it shouldn't have been that way, right? They shouldn't have been a 2.5-point favorite. Anyway, when everybody thought A&M was going to win and everybody thought Alabama was going to beat Oklahoma, and you're going to have a 4-7 Auburn team against a 2-loss Alabama team, it's a very different feeling today than 3 days ago.
Yeah, and the timings of your wins and losses matter. And we've seen that from the perspective of the CFP committee, but also just as far as general vibes and, how teams finish. You want to trend up. And Auburn is trending up right now. They've become a better football team over the course of the season. And I'm not saying Alabama's gotten worse, but normally this is when Alabama's peaking.
Yeah.
And, it's a new era.
What we've said, I think a few times this year, is not that Alabama would be a bad team this year, or even an average team. We said they'd be a good SEC team, but they're not used to good. And we're not used to watching good Alabama teams. We're used to watching elite, dominant Alabama teams. Yeah. We're not used to watching Alabama teams that lose 3 road games in a year. You know who loses road games? Like most regular good SEC teams.
Yeah, college football teams. Yeah,
right. Because it's hard to win on the road against another good team.
It's amazing.
And look, and for that reason, like, it's going to be hard for Auburn to go over there and win. But sure does feel a lot more possible now than it did 3 days ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does, for sure. For sure. Let's talk about basketball tonight, real quick. For a second, we cool with that? Hey, head over to thebarnauburn.com. You can get all of your Auburn updates there. Kyle has been just dumping so many recruiting nuggets in there, as well as some of our mods. So be sure to check that out at thebarnauburn.com. I don't think they're running the deal for much longer, so you can sign up for your first month for just $1, and that'll get you through signing day, transfer portal, big chunk of basketball season, all that stuff. Also could be a good gift for the Auburn fan in your life. Just check out thebarnauburn.com. So Auburn kicks off things in the Maui Invitational tonight against Iowa State. It's going to be a late one, 8 o'clock tip, right? 8 o'clock Central Time. Is that right?
Yep.
Against Iowa State. Auburn opened as a 1.5-point favorite. Some books have extended that out to 4.5 points, which means the money is coming in on Auburn, which I think is interesting and actually not surprising. But Iowa State's a really good basketball team. Iowa State is a really, really good basketball team. And so this is by far the marquee matchup of the day in Maui. And we'll see how Auburn handles themselves.
I love this. These next 3 days are awesome. I like late basketball games, just personally, even if I've got to work them. So if Auburn wins tonight, they'll play at 10 o'clock on Tuesday night. So I love that. Especially,
are you being sarcastic?
No, I love it. I really do.
You love 10 o'clock tips?
I love it. Yeah.
All right.
This tournament, as I look at the updated KenPom ratings, the lowest rated team in this tournament is Colorado, and they're 68, which means
they moved up from last week. Then they were 71 last week,
right? So. Which means no matter who Auburn plays, they're a top 70 KenPom rated team. You're gonna have 3 outstanding games. You could play North Carolina and UConn if you just win and win and win.
That'd be so fun.
And what a great
test. And North Carolina is worried about Dayton. Yeah, Dayton's a good team, and that just kind of goes to show the depth of this field. But yeah, as far as getting it done, Iowa State's a good defensive team.
Yep,
they're a physical team.
Yeah,
kind of reminds me of Houston, honestly. And so,
I think that's fair.
Going into Houston, we talked about how they would have a matchup for Janai Broome. I think you can say the same with Iowa State. Janai still was incredible against Houston, but if Janai can keep that up and then somebody else step up from outside, you got to like Auburn's chances. But to me, Janai Broome is going to be a big, big part of this just because of the matchup.
He has to be. He's the player of the year in college. He's the front runner for player of the year in college basketball. So every game plan has to start with Janai. And until somebody finds a way to shut him down and Chaney Johnson down, And like your early season identity for this team is Janai and Chaney, and then whichever guard is tagging in.
Well, Chad Baker-Mazara and Chaney have similar stat lines. So when it comes to scoring, they're always hovering around 10. Janai gets his 15 to 20, and then it's like, who else steps up outside of that?
Yeah. Who's your guard? Who's your guy who's under 6'8" that's going to step up and have the big game from an offensive perspective? And then you got the guys defensively. Both these teams have 6 players that average 9 points or more. So both teams have a lot of scoring. It means it's a difficult matchup defensively.
Yeah, right.
For both. So can one guy get hot, hit 3 or 4 threes in the game for either side? Could be the difference. Close game, physical game. I expect this to be exciting all the way down to the very end. In fact, I expect all 3 games to be very exciting all the way to the end this week.
Yeah, I do too. I'm glad it's a holiday week so we can sleep in somewhat the next morning. That'll be nice.
Exactly.
Auburn beat Iowa State, yes or no?
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. What is your prediction for Maui? My prediction has been UConn over Auburn in the championship.
Yeah, it's hard to go against that. I mean, they're 2-time defending national champs.
But you would take that in a heartbeat, right?
Well, 100%. Look, 6 years ago, Auburn went 2-1. They beat Xavier, lost to Duke, beat Arizona. I think, look, I want to win all of them, and I think Auburn's capable of going 3-0. But if you came out with a 2-1 mark, I think you would take that all day.
Yeah, the only way I think a 2-1 mark is disappointing is if you lose to Iowa State and then you beat Dayton and beat either Michigan State or Colorado or Memphis on the other side of the bracket. It's like you're 2-1.
Yeah.
And still, it helps you. Like you said, they're all top 70 teams in KenPom. So, it still boosts your resume. Some of those will end up as quad 1 wins at the end of the season. But I don't know. I just think just emotionally, you want the brand power, right?
Yeah, no, you're at the point now as a nationally elite program where isn't that interesting that if you go 2-1 with wins over Dayton and like a Colorado or a Memphis, you'd go, I mean, it's fine, but it just
all probable tournament teams. I mean, it was pretty wild. I don't know if you saw on my other show, Locked on Auburn, I did a thing with all of the other hosts, like Locked on UConn, Locked on Cyclones and all that. And just hearing the UConn host and the North Carolina host talk about our biggest matchup problem is Auburn. And I'm like, what is happening? What is happening right now?
Yeah.
So fun. So freaking fun. All right. Bear with us this week. Holiday week, obviously, we're going to try to be as normal on our schedule as we possibly can. So just bear with us on that. Be sure to like the video and please subscribe to the Barn Auburn YouTube channel, which you're already right here. And also at thebarnauburn.com. Mean a ton.
No question. And until, and so I think with that said, it about wraps up today's show, Zach.
Oh, I didn't say it. I think that about does it for today's show, Brad.
I was wondering if you would pick up and do my part or how we'd play that. But I like it. Hey, we're off to a great start this week, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So hang in there with us. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.